Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 6 of HBO's The Penguin, entitled Gold Summit. Well, I feel vindicated in saying that last week's episode was transitional, as this one takes what seems like a fairly significant time jump and immediately kind of like reestablishes everything, like everyone's status. The underground lair is now fully up and operational, and Oz's team is using the tunnels to supply bliss to all of the boroughs in Gotham without being seen. Sophia and Sal, they're still on the hunt for Oz, and Vic was able to lose someone who was trailing him, but they're still in the clear since no one knows they're working underground. Speaking of Vic, he seems to have gotten into a routine as well as Oz's right-hand man. Seems a lot more comfortable in that role. Like there's a shot of him just handling a gun very confidently. And speaking of Sophia, she's got some sort of BDSM thing going on with Julian. I don't know where that's going, but if I had to lodge one critique of this show, it would be the relationship between Sophia and Julian. Like at no point has it felt right to me. Like it's always felt off, and not in a within the context of the show. Like it's something. It feels like something's not being done well. Like at the beginning of the season, she's doing therapy sessions with him, but something about how he dealt with her made me think that he was into her. Then in the flashback scenes at Arkham, it was difficult to nail down just like what he was up to, what his motivations were, what he believed. Like sometimes he seemed like he wanted to help Sophia and he had the power to help her, but he just continued to allow her to be mistreated. And then she's released and kills her family, and he's like, wow, I see you've made great progress from our therapy sessions. It's so inspiring. Now I want to do crime too. And now this week, their relationship is purely sexual. Well, sexual, but also power-based. Maybe mostly power-based. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't even have sex, and she just like tortures him the whole time and then like just tosses him out like a piece of meat to a dog. The point is that his role in her life has changed from week to week, and at no point did it ever feel like something authentic. It always felt wrong and this off. But I do have a hypothesis for though, and this could this could just be me trying to give a show that I like the benefit of the doubt, but rather than admitting that it might be fucking up. But this could be, I think it's possible that this could all be kind of like a long con, like part of a long-term plan from Julian. Like, let's say for instance he is a major Batman villain. This could be some long-term plan that he's been playing out since back when Carmine and his wife were still alive. Like maybe he killed those women. Maybe Julian Rush isn't his real name. Maybe this Julian Rush person is just someone that he's portraying as a means of getting close to Sophia, so that he's basically amenable to anything she wants and is just doing what he can to like further get inside her inner circle. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm cool with that. That's pretty cool, but I wouldn't have figured it out if the relationship between the two of them just wasn't all over the place this season, thus forcing me to like, okay, how can I make sense of this? And I think the idea that this could be part of a long con, and that the fact that his behavior has shifted at different portions of her life, it could just be due to him just trying to make sure he stays close so that he can work his way in and succeed at whatever plan that he might have. Hey everybody, I just want to take a small break from this review to talk about the various other ways you can engage with me on other platforms. If you're so inclined, and I understand why you wouldn't, I am an acquired taste, but you can join the Patreon where you can get extra content like retro reviews, where I review old shows and movies to see if they still hold up today, Mike's Musings, where I talk about shows I'm watching that I don't cover on the channel, or Mike's VOD, where you can commission me to watch a show, which I will then review on the channel. And if you want to engage with me and chat with me more directly, I also implore you to join the Discord and follow the Facebook page. I set up channels in the Discord for all of us to discuss the shows I'm reviewing on the channel, and I also drop new videos in there since it's the easiest platform for me to share to from my phone. The Facebook can be really fun because I sort of live comment on shows I'm watching, often while under the influence, I'm not going to lie. And I'll also share news there, both about television and film, and about myself as well. So if you like my content, you want to be more engaged, you think I'm charming, or you simply want to show support, feel free to sign up for the Patreon or join the Discord or Facebook today. Links to all platforms are in every video description. Remember to share all my shit to your respective social media platforms. And now back to this review. I thought this episode was a return to form, moving the story on to its next phase quickly, reestablishing everything, and then increasing the stakes and moving things forward. And I just realized, am I wearing the same the same shirt from my promo ad? Like, I feel like I am. I've always wanted to avoid that, but I just sat down and started recording. That's gonna be weird. Anyway, you can feel the situation with Oz's mother escalating quickly. You can feel the weight of everything at stake between Oz and Sophia and Salvatore, and you can see Victor's role within the gang evolving. A lot took place in this episode, and I think it all worked pretty well. Oz, or more accurately Colin Farrell, had yet another great episode with multiple noteworthy scenes, and I'm even kind of digging how Sophia is amassing support by playing this like us women got to stick together against these men angle. Not mad at that at all. And I think this week, I'm going to start by talking about Sophia. And when we open the episode, her and Salvatore are still on the hunt for Oz. And I like this scene near the beginning where Sophia and Sal are cooking in the kitchen. It's right after she leaves from undoubtedly putting scratch marks on Julia's dick. And Sal's cooking in the kitchen. She comes in. She offers to help. And she says something to the effect of like, oh, I didn't know you cooked, or I'm surprised that you cooked. And he says that Nadia taught him several recipes from her culture that were meant to be passed down. And I like that moment as like a sad and relatable reminder that last week, Salvatore Maroni, the crime boss, had his family killed by the star of the show. And it felt like it was just, it's a part of the game. Like you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you kill somebody else's family, sometimes they kill yours. Hell, I even talked about how dope the, speaking of cook, why'd you call your wife? Like, I even talked about how dope that line was. But this week, in that scene, he's a man. He's just a regular guy who cooks meals, and he just lost his wife, and he just lost the son that he was supposed to pass down the recipes that his wife taught him. And that makes him relatable. That makes him feel more human. It makes you feel bad for him. And I thought that was a good scene. But him and Sophia decide that Oz is getting too close to becoming too powerful. He's supplying too many gangs. None of them are talking, giving up any information. Sophia says that he can't do shit unless he gets the triads on his side, and they're loyal to her, so they should be good. But we do know that Oz has his sights set on getting aligned with the triads because he feels like they're going to help him be able to take Bliss International. So Sophia and Sal have a few corner boys strung up, their fingers cut off, kind of like as a warning shot, basically saying if we catch you slanging Bliss, this is what's going to happen to you. Their next move is to break into Oswald's place. And we learn, or at least I learned, that Sophia thinks Oz's mother is dead. I don't know if we knew that already, but I didn't recall it. I was like, oh shit, why did she think that? So maybe we knew that, but I learned it, possibly for the second time, when Sophia says this. She also finds a photo of Eve and some panties in a drawer, letting her know that Eve has a drawer at Oz's crib and thus must be of someone, not just someone of importance to him, but someone who could potentially know where he is. She also swipes a cigar cutter, which is presumably to continue cutting off fingers. And if I don't see Oz's finger get put into one next week, I'm going to really wonder why they went out of their way to show me her stealing it. But I think it's probably going to come into play. Sophia later finds Eve, and I thought this scene was great too. Like, I thought it would go the typical way that results in Eve's death. Regardless of whether or not she gave up Oz, and I wouldn't have minded that if however it played out, like if she gives up Oz, she doesn't give up Oz. Either way, I thought she was going to end up dead. But I like how it played out much better. After Eve refers to her as the hangman, Sophia realizes that she doesn't know what Oz did to her, and she tells her everything. Like, Sophia tells her how Oz assisted in setting her up for the murders, which allowed her father to continue committing them. And she frames this as, this violence against women, these two men allowed it to happen. All of this was news to Eve. Then, despite learning that Eve was Oz's alibi for Alberto's death and thus knew about it, she plays this angle of how men keep using and mistreating women, and she allows Eve to live. And Eve responds by then giving up Oz when she originally said she didn't know where he was. And I liked how, rather than making Eve forcefully give up Oz or have her not do it at all and then end up dying anyway, they played out a scenario in which Eve lives and it makes her want to give up Oz because she learns who he truly is and what he's capable of, and it's way worse than what she thought she knew about him. And again, the whole angle of these two men killed or played a role in killing all of these women, and then set up this woman, Sophia herself, to take the fall for it. And he's lied to you, another woman, Eve, about his involvement in it. It brings up these feelings of betrayal in her, and then she's just like, all right, well, if that's how it is, then fuck it, he can go. And I thought that was a really well done scene. The episode then ends, at least the Sophia portion, with Sophia arriving in the apartment at Crown Point because Eve told her, like, hey, go check Crown Point. That's probably where they're at. And she arrives there. She's in the apartment that Vic, Oz, and Oz's mother, Frances. I don't know if I've been calling her Frances when I've been doing these videos, but I'm going to start doing that. So Frances is Oz's mom, if you aren't already aware. But Sophia arrives in the apartment unbeknownst to Vic and Frances as they're dancing the night away. And that's how you end an episode. Like, not with this, like, hey, here's my new lair. I'm a Ninja Turtle now. Now they ended this one with, an actual moment where it's like, oh shit, things are about to really hit the fan. Over in Oz's world, things are getting worse in pretty much every way. Like I mentioned earlier, Sal and Sophia ended up making it so that no one is going to want to sell Bliss. And Oz's mother, Frances's dementia is getting really bad really fast. She has a bad episode early on in the episode. I just know where I can say that. Where she thinks Oz is his father and tells him that he needs to get the heat back on. And the heat goes off early in the episode. It's really cold. Everybody's freezing in there. Of note in this scene, Vic evokes the name of Oz's creatively named brothers, Jack and Rex. But this offends Oz, and he tells Vic not to do it again. But it does seem to have a positive impact on Frances. Like, if Vic had been allowed to continue, she probably would have calmed down and felt a little bit better. Then there's a moment where Frances kind of like compliments Vic, and she gives him like a nice little like a pet name, and Oz visibly shows frustration with this. He looks disturbed. Throwing their little dance session at the end of the episode that's ultimately going to end up with Sophia capturing them and undoubtedly using them as bait to get to Oz. And I wonder if Frances is going to, like, inadvertently be the wedge that is driven between Oz and Vic. And I don't want to see that. Like, I want them to stay cool. I remember in my review for episode 1, I questioned the use of the Victor character. And by and large, the Victor character itself, I could do with or without him. But the relationship that's been built between the two of them, I love it. Like, before I get into that, though, I want to talk about Frances real quick. Continue talking about Frances. There's a later scene where Oz returns home, and she's, like, in a freezing bath. She's presumably been in there forever. It's cold. She's cold. He helps her out, and she's, like, freaking the fuck out completely. But in a brief moment of lucidity, she says to Oz what I've always planned to tell anyone if this ever was to happen to me. She says if her mind goes before her body, she wants him to help kill her. Or, she didn't say it. That sounds way worse. She wants him to help her die. It's the same thing, but that kill one sounds worse. Now, I wouldn't ask anybody to help me die. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. But I have the same general viewpoint. Like, I don't want to be some, like, mumbling, doddering old man, like, who can't make sense out of anything. Like, if my brain starts to fail me, just go ahead and take my body out, too. Like, I don't want to be out here like that if there's no hope of me recovering any of my faculties. Anyway, Oz, he's hesitant to agree to this. But Frances reaches deep into her bag for her go-to insult, calls him a pussy. After which he agrees to do it, because he can't be a pussy. We already know he already has a chip on his shoulder about being weak. Like, you can't call him that. So getting back to Oz specifically, after the corner boys get strung up by Sal and Sophia, Oz decides to flood the streets with Bliss for free. Sal and Sophia can't kill everybody, right? And if everybody gets a taste, everybody's going to want it, and it's going to be too big of a thing for them to control. Additionally, Frances has been giving Oz shit about not being able to get the heat back on in the apartment. And there's a great scene where Oz goes to threaten this council person into getting the heat back on in Crown Point after he learns it's been diverted to the rich neighborhoods. And side note, this show and this episode in particular have laid on the social commentary pretty thick, and I bet they've done it well enough that people who would normally complain about that sort of thing probably won't, because it doesn't feel heavy-handed, but it's there. Class is a huge theme that runs throughout this show, and we see it come up multiple times to great effect in this episode, just like how the gender commentary was well utilized in the scene with Sophia and Eve that I just talked about. But anyway, Oz runs up on this council person, and dude's like, hey, you're Carmine's guy. And after Oz is done, like, nearly ripping this guy's nose apart with a pair of pliers just to get the heat back on, He's like, oh, and by the way, I'm nobody's fucking guy. I'm Oswald fucking Cobblepot, you bitch, you. And I was like, yeah, right. I was like, I like that. The chip on his shoulder and the way he doesn't allow people to treat him as if he's less than they are. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And Oz's story ends this week with him executing on his grand plan of creating his own alliance. You know, last week ended with Sophia and Salvatore creating theirs. Oz has a plan to create his own alliance as well. He calls together all the leaders of the various gangs and boroughs and gives a pretty rousing speech that, again, it revolves around class. Like, he talks about how all the rich people like Sal and Sophia have always run shit in Gotham, and they're just going to continue to walk all over us. They're not going to give us any space. And then he leans heavily into, like, you're afraid to align with me and take over the city because it's of people who don't even know your name. And it really plays into their insecurity, their thirst for power, and they all agree eventually to join him. They agree by cracking beers together. But we know Oz is about to be pulled away from this alliance when he learns about Francis and Vic. So we'll see what happens with that. And lastly, let's close by talking about Vic because he has a pretty eventful episode as well. He finally crosses paths with Squid again. That's the guy we saw in the flashback. I think it was episode 1 or 2. And then in present day last week, he ran the drops game in Crown Point. He saw Vic bringing Francis into the apartment last week. And I got another side note here. How does Oz get in and out of that apartment without being seen? Anyway, Squid asks Vic where he's getting money and says to tell his people that he wants in. And when Vic starts to bring this to Oz is so distracted about his mother that Vic kind of like recants his concerns, like, which lets us know that he intends on handling it himself. And initially, he makes the worst decision you could possibly make, which is trying to pay Squid off. He even says, like, I'll give you some more next week. Worst idea he could have possibly had. Squid is immediately pissed off by this. He's throwing around the money, immediately asking for more, and lets it be known that he knows that Vic works for Oz, and he demands to see Oz immediately, which was Squid's biggest, first, and only mistake. I don't know. I feel like Oz has a big enough reputation within the streets that Squid shouldn't have been so adamant about that, but what do I know? Then Vic does what he should have done the whole time, and he immediately shoots that piece of shit in the neck. Problem solved. Like, I don't know what you were so worried about. Like, it's Gotham, man. It's you can do this. You'll be fine. But it's a pretty gruesome death. He's got blood splurting out of his neck. And my favorite scene of the episode is when Vic returns to Oz, and it's written all over his face that he had to do something that he was struggling with. Oz immediately deduces that Vic had to kill Squid, and just he's just forever encouraging and motivational. He's like, "Don't you look down at me? You look at me in my face. You did the right thing." Like, it's just so motivational. You protected those you cared about. And he hugs him. I'm like, fuck, man, how are you not supposed to feel better about shooting a motherfucker in the neck after you get a motivational speech like that? And then Oz is like, it gets easier. This is dark as fuck. Like, man, you mean killing people gets easier? All right, man. So now with 2 episodes left, the pendulum is swung back in Sophia's favor. Even though Oz has, in theory, built a better alliance, she now has his mother and Vic, which is the ultimate trump card. And as I often find myself asking week to week, how is Oz going to get out of this jam? I guess we'll find out. Let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. Let me know what you think might happen next week or in the final 2 episodes. You know, am I doing too much about Julia theory here? Is he playing a long game? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And until next week, peace.